There are moments in farming and homesteading that feel a bit like archaeology. You dig into the soil expecting life, movement, and that unmistakable smell of healthy earth. Yet you hit dead ground instead. Soil that's pale, compacted, brittle, and silent. No worms, no structure, no sign that anything has been happening below the surface for years. Many people today assume that once soil reaches that point, the solution lies in hauling in fertilizer or starting over with truckloads of compost. But throughout history, societies revived depleted land long before modern soil science existed. They learned how to bring back the quiet workers beneath the surface earthworms. This guide breaks down exactly how to attract worms naturally to dead soil, drawing from centuries of land restoration practices that worked even before we understood the biology behind them. The goal is simple: create conditions where worms return on their own and rebuild the ground from the inside out. The process begins with removing the barriers that keep worms away. Dead soil isn't just nutrient poor, it's often hostile to life. The top layer dries fast, forms a crust, and offers nothing for worms to feed on. Historically, farmers recognized this problem long before soil chemistry was measurable. They understood that worms appear only in ground that is soft, moist, and fed by decaying plant matter. The first step, therefore, is to break the cycle of sterility by gently opening the soil surface. Not deep tilling, not flipping the entire bed, but loosening the top few centimeters so moisture and organic matter can enter again. In practice, this can be done with nothing more than a broad fork, a garden fork, or even a homemade wooden wedge. The goal isn't to pulverize the soil, but to fracture it. That small shift creates tiny air pockets where water can settle rather than run off. This step is crucial because worms will never move into ground that stays bone dry or sealed shut. By loosening the surface, you create the first invitation for moisture, microbes, and eventually worm movement. Earthworms return when the soil becomes a dependable source of food. Worms are simple creatures in terms of requirements. Their food is decomposing organic matter, particularly high-carbon material broken down by fungi and bacteria. When soil lacks this, worms cannot survive in it. Historical farmers solved this by layering organic matter directly on top of dead soil, rather than mixing it into the ground. A practical method anyone can use today is shallow sheet mulching. This involves spreading a thin layer of carbon-rich materials such as dried leaves, shredded tree bark, or semi-rotted straw directly onto the soil. The purpose is not to smother the bed, but to trigger decomposition in a controlled way that worms can enter from below. As microbes begin breaking down these materials, they create heat, moisture retention, and chemical signals that attract the first wave of soil life. If you want results sooner, adding a small amount of nitrogen-rich material on top of the carbon layer, such as grass clippings, coffee grounds, or chopped kitchen scraps, acts as a primer. This combination mirrors traditional woodland build-up, where leaf litter and fallen branches slowly converted forest floors into worm-rich humus over centuries. Moisture becomes a critical turning point that determines whether worms actually move in. Dead soil often sheds water rather than holding it, which means even if you add organic matter, worms still may not come. Historically, farmers solved this by covering their organic layers with breathable, dry mulch, such as old hay or lightly decomposed straw. This covering works like a natural umbrella. It prevents sunbaking during the day and reduces evaporation at night. Under this protective layer, moisture begins to accumulate, and the soil develops the slightly cool, dim conditions that worms prefer. Over time, the mulch itself becomes the worms' food source as they start feeding from below. On a practical level, maintaining this moisture can be done with occasional watering during dry periods, or by laying out pathways of mulch leading from nearby moist areas like ditches or hedge lines. Worms migrate through moist corridors, and these mulched paths act as highways straight into your garden beds. Microbial revival is the signal worms use to judge whether soil is livable. Before worms arrive, microbes return first. Microbial life softens the soil, breaks down organic matter, and produces compounds that worms instinctively seek. Historically, farmers encourage microbial revival, using what we now call fermented plant extracts or simple compost teas, made by soaking plant material in water for days until it becomes rich with bacterial activity. Applying a light layer of this liquid over your mulch allows microbial colonies to explode in population. As decomposition accelerates, the soil warms slightly, and chemical signals rise from the ground that worms detect even from several feet away. This is often the stage when you begin noticing worm castings appearing around the edges of the bed. A very effective modern traditional hybrid method is to bury a small trench of vegetable scraps at the edge of your dead soil. Worms will find this trench first, because it decomposes faster than surface mulch. As they feed, they loosen the surrounding soil and gradually move inward. The long-term transformation relies on consistent feeding, not heavy soil disturbance. Once worms begin appearing, the goal shifts from attraction to retention. Worms thrive in stable environments and decline quickly if their habitat is disrupted. That means avoiding deep tilling, constant digging, or removing large amounts of mulch all at once. Continue feeding the top layers with organic matter in small but regular amounts. Each addition encourages worms to stay active near the surface, pulling material downward and converting it into nutrient-rich castings. Over months, this creates a soft, dark, spongy layer that begins to resemble loam. You'll notice that water no longer runs off the surface, but sinks in steadily. Roots move deeper. Fungi appear around the base of plants. Worms multiply and create deeper channels, breaking apart even old compacted zones. What once seemed like dead ground becomes living soil again, restored using a method that has existed long before modern agriculture, simply giving worms the environment they evolved to thrive in. For more historically grounded, practical guides like this, make sure you subscribe to FarmLab and share this resource with others who appreciate real soil wisdom. More field-tested knowledge is on the way.